are currently out there. Of course, Renekton is still on the card, so still that big top lane bully. Ziggs was the final ban that came out from Fnatic, and Alliance are considering this one. They've gone with a Leona ban, so taking that away from YellOwStaR. Does that mean they want to go Morgana?
You know what, I also think with the Leona ban being taken away, they're forcing YellOwStaR either onto the pokey supports like the Morgana and the Karma. Alternatively, they're trying to get their hands on Thresh. I actually think Nyph's Thresh has been phenomenal lately, and it is definitely a consideration.
Well, it shows what they wanted to do. They wanted to get the speed out there. Kha'Zix gets locked in instantly for Fnatic, but it does mean Alliance have that Rise option available to them, and the Karma, which was used very well by the Copenhagen Wolves against them yesterday.
There's a lot of mobility already on the side of Alliance if they want to go that route. Now, when we look at Cyanide, he's locked in that Kha'Zix. It's not one of his most played champions of late, but he has picked it up during Super Week. I feel like that is a great denial from Shook, but there is still the likes of that Elise and that Lee set up and available who are still very strong in the laning phase. Yesterday, Jankos destroyed with that Elise. He had a very good performance. So we'll see how they decide to lock in, knowing there's no pressure because the jungler's already taken off the table. It does allow Fnatic to potentially take Lee Sin, deny that from Shook, and give it to sOAZ in the top lane if he wants it.
So Rise and Karma both locked in. We'll see what happens. Karma's really risen to prominence, but quick lock-ins from Fnatic once again. Lucian and Soraka making a performance. Now the question is this a support or is this Peke in the mid?
So High from North America has been running Soraka mid lane. There's a lot of pros talking about how powerful she is in that role. Earlier today, SKT T1 ran her bottom lane. So the options are there for both. My instinct is to think it's going to be going mid lane, but we'll need to see how the rest of these picks and bans filter through before we know for sure.
Well, the speed and mobility options open. We can see Lee Sin being considered. That's going to be Shook in the jungle, and of course alongside him. And this is exactly what you touched on. The fact that Elise was very strong for Jankos and probably brought it back to people's minds when they saw the devastating performance that Jankos performed on Gambit.
So even in the recent changes, Elise has lost some of her damage to champions, but not so much that she's not still a threat. Her biggest knock was in her clear speed by reducing the damage she deals to neutral monsters. So at this point in time, I still think that's a good lock-in. I like the combo that we've got from Alliance so far. You've got fairly good poke, you've got wave clear, you've got a strong front line with that Rise and that Lee Sin. The only thing that I'm not 100% sold on right now is safe wave clear. So if Alliance are ever forced into a defensive siege, they're relying on their support in their jungler for their AoE and the splash damage from Tabzz' rockets. It's a little bit risky for me if they ever fall behind. We'll see what their final pick is, because if they're safe wave clear in mid, well, that answers all my questions.
Yeah, we'll see how it works out. At the moment, there's the speed and mobility that Karma offers, but there's very stagnant play from Alliance. I think it's safe to say there's not quick disengage. If those flashes are down, there could be problems, but we're looking at Fnatic to see what they're going to lock in.
There is one thing that you do need to note about Alliance's side. You have a single target root, single target cocoon, root from Rise, root from Karma. The moment Alliance decide to kill somebody, they have a on-hit rune prison, which can be followed up by cocoon, which can be followed up by a snare from Karma. Somebody will die the moment Alliance engage.
Holy locked in both Kayle and Janna. And alongside Soraka, there is some huge healing there, Trevor. I don't know what the hell they're going to have to do to take down Fnatic here.
This is one of the things I dislike about being in this position, because I don't know where these champions are going. I'm going to theorize that this is going to be a support Janna, mid lane Soraka, maybe top lane, and Kayle in the respective opposite. The reason I think this is going to be support Janna is because Fnatic have actually pulled out support Janna the spring playoffs of last year. It is a long time ago when Enrated was still playing for them, and it offers so much utility. When you've got Rise, Karma, Elise running at you, you just instantly pop that Monsoon down, it gets rid of all of them. If Karthus gets locked in, you have the same situation. The one thing that Fnatic do not have right now is a traditional team fight composition. They want to outlast you with heals, with intervention, with Monsoon, with Soraka. There are 2 summoner heals right now. So if Fnatic ever get in a situation where somebody gets bursted down, they will instantly lose the rest of the fight, because their champions need to draw battle out. They need Soraka to get a bunch of star calls down, have Kayle shredding armor and ammo with Righteous Fury and melting people through as well. We'll see how Fnatic plays it, because there's no room for error in team fights.
Double heals as well at the moment for Fnatic on the summoner spells, as well as the 3 healing champions. This is going to be a high sustain Fnatic, but is it lacking in damage?
So, traditional damage, yes.
Yeah.
It is lacking in traditional damage. You don't have your Ryze or your Karthus to burst people down. But Ryze is going to build tanky. Elise is going to build tanky. What both Karma and Kayle do is shred through those defensive statistics. Built into their kit, they reduce your defensive power. So assuming that Fnatic do not get singled out by all of that single target CC and lose somebody very quickly, they can prolong a fight. Because remember, if a Cocoon in a Rune Prison and Karma locks you down, well, Intervention is going to save you. Oh, bugger, we're going to lose them again. Well, then Wish is going to save you. Oh, my word, Alliance are still pushing on. Fine, then I'll Monsoon and then get rid of you all and reset the fight. There are tools there, but Fnatic cannot mess them up.
Yeah, it's going to be a tricky fight, and I think we're going to see some prolonged team fights as well. We'll see how it works out. Let's take a quick look at the votes, though, to see who you think will win this one. I've got best of 3. According to the numbers, wow, 74% of you have voted for Fnatic. The Fnatic fan base coming out strong for this one. No surprises.
No surprises at all. And you know what? If you looked at Alliance yesterday, I would think that's not a bad fight, not a bad vote. Alliance really struggled against the Copenhagen Wolves. And with this very, very interesting composition of Fnatic, I feel they do have the tools to deal with Alliance, but we'll need to see how they implement it.
Well, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to get underway. It is the semi-finals of the spring split. Fnatic up against Alliance. Fnatic are going to be starting out on the blue side. Don't get yourselves too excited yet, people. And Alliance will be on the red side.
We're 2 for 2. Froggen was on stage yesterday. We did have some pauses at the beginning of the day.
Of course, it is Alliance.
Froggen on stage
they
again
continue
today.
to carry it through, yeah.
Scumbag Froggen.
Well, it's the CLG to EG to Alliance curse. It just continues to follow these players. And I'm casting it as well, so it's like there's like a whole culmination of problems.
We're actually hearing it is a Froggen client restart as well, so you
Froggen,
cannot,
please.
This is as poetic as you get. Now, I am quite literally jumping out of my seat at the champion lock-ins for Fnatic. Just to remind everybody, Soraka top lane, Kayle mid lane, Janna support. So it did filter into place the way we were anticipating. Summon a heal on both AD carry and top lane. And you've got all of these shields and abilities. You've got the Eye of the Storm from Janna, which is going to block a lot of damage. If you get through that, you have Intervention from Kayle. That's going to block a lot of damage. If all of that gets through it, you have Wish and Monsoon to reset team fights. The scary thing is, while all of that is going on, if Soraka, being played by xPeke, is not in the middle of every member of Alliance hitting them all with Star Call, I'm concerned that Kha'Zix and Lucian will not be able to clean up. If at any point that Soraka goes down and that Star Call is not hitting a bunch of people and shredding their MR, I do feel that is the crux, that is the key of this composition, rather sOAZ playing Soraka. So we'll see how Alliance deals with focusing the key targets in this game.
And we are about to get back underway, ladies and gentlemen. The semi-finals will begin at last. Here we go. It is going to be Fnatic starting out as the blue team up against Alliance on the red team. And this is going to be an interesting start, to say the least. YellOwStaR looking maybe to take a run straight in towards it. Wickid's in position already, though. Oh, yeah, Wickid. I don't think Wickid had leveled up anything yet, and the rest of his team weren't on the same page. They hadn't got there quick enough.
That's actually a little bigger than you might anticipate, because that was a purchased ward. So that wasn't going to be just a 1-minute trinket ward. That is a gold investment from YellOwStaR that has already been denied and been taken away. So a nice small win for Alliance, and we'll need to see who's going to go for the invades. As it stands, Fnatic has already initiated this lane swap, as we were expecting, as we see a lot in patch 4.5.
Well, and the irony is it was YellOwStaR, and he's the man that's bought the most wards in the entire spring LCS for Europe.
He's been doing an incredible job. He's invested most of his gold into pink wards, actually, in that support role. So we'll see how it works out for him later in this game. Right now, Alliance still grouping themselves up. It's one of these situations where you see they are defending as a 5-man. They can go for a late invade, but whenever you group up nice and tightly, you reduce the risk of a lone member being caught out by your enemy's invade.
I'm intrigued how this is going to go with Soraka. The fact that obviously Wicked's on the teleport, so we know what's going to happen. They're going to be 4-1 split pushing, trying to keep things going. But sOAZ, I mean, it's a Ryze versus Soraka lane.
So I'm interested to see why Fnatic decided not to go for a straight-up matchup. Ryze has got next to no wave clear in the very early stages of the game. So if they had put Soraka versus Ryze, sOAZ could have shoved that wave down incredibly quickly through the usage of his Star Call and forced Wickd onto the back foot. Instead, they've gone for a swap, and sOAZ is going to be able to farm quite well under the tower.
Well, they went for the double invade. That's what we should point out. The fact that Shook snuck in there, took away the blue buff, I believe, and also the red buff was taken away by the top lane pairing, or well, the duo pairing, I guess you could say they are in the top lane right now, along with sOAZ. So they've actually snuck in there, whereas Alliance only took the red buff away from Fnatic.
So this is the benefit of being in the semi-final and having a bye from the quarterfinals. The invade of the decision-making from Fnatic was calculated. Cyanide went solo to grab that blue buff, as you've already highlighted. And because all of Alliance had invaded as a group, it was a risk from Cyanide. If he'd been caught out, he could have given up first blood, but at the end of the day, he didn't. They've denied that additional buff from Shook, and that's just going to slow his jungle down a little bit quicker.
Yeah, completely caught them out. We're actually seeing a... Well, it's the standard, I guess you could say, these days. The fact that Wickd is down here with his duo pair, and Shook's going to join him. Shock horror, 4 people going to push his bottom tower.
I am so happy that we showed that little clip in our pregame, because this is the thing that made Alliance's life so difficult yesterday against the Wolves. They had 4 members of Copenhagen Wolves pushing down their bottom half of the map. And because you've got Elise with her Spiderlings and an attack speed steroid, this tower is going to fall much quicker than the top lane, where Cyanide is going in there with Kha'Zix. He's actually not even going for the tower right now.
No, sOAZ is taking Wraiths away. Cyanide, is taking the Golems away. Meanwhile, the duo pairing of Rekkles and YellOwStaR, they're trying to push the tower, but they're going to be way behind on this push. They're going to be lucky if they even take this tower down by the time they get the inner turret.
Yeah, there's a lot of minions there, and there's that damage reduction, so it is going to take an extended period of time. I quite like what sOAZ is doing to at least get some levels and some CS. Got to give a shout out to St. Vicious, who has been jungling Soraka and been quite outspoken about her power in the jungle right now. sOAZ is mimicking some of that ability. As you've highlighted, inner turret is about to fall just as Fnatic grab that outer turret. The question is, when do Fnatic recall to defend their inhibitor?
Yeah, whether they're going to keep on pushing in. Now we're seeing Cyanide's backing away, YellOwStar's backing away. They saw Alliance fall prey to Copenhagen Wolves yesterday with this tactic. They lost that inhibitor turret very early, which opened up the entire map, and they're not going to fall for it this time. We do see Rekkles and YellOwStar. They're going to stick around. They're going to try and push his tower, but I'm not sure they're going to be there long enough. We do see Shook already got back. He's going to be heading towards that top inner turret.
Yeah, so at this point in time, we do see Rekkles and YellOwStar still sticking around. They'll get some damage onto that inner turret, but only about a third of its hit points have fallen. So immediate advantage to Alliance. They've opened up the entire bottom half of the map from Fnatic, and they're going to have some freedom when they want to invade on Fnatic's red buff and maybe try to get some dragon control in place. We'll see how they take advantage of it. Yesterday, after Wolves grabbed that inhibitor turret, nothing really came of it for under 20-odd minutes, but it was a threat.
Well, again, it's another early turret from Wickd. We saw this yesterday. Early tiers, I should say, turret. I don't know where the turret came from. There was a couple of early turrets, but that global gold is given that tier very early on. We'll see here whether he gets that stacked up quickly. Froggen's going to be doing the same. He's going to be looking to try and take advantage, but right now he's worried about xPeke. They're actually very even in that mid lane. We haven't seen a great deal from them, and remember Froggen, he was just farming away like a pro yesterday, keeping that CS very high, and he's going to be looking to try and do the same, this time against xPeke.
Yeah, if a Wall of Pain slows xPeke, it could combo to a Cocoon. Let's see if they land it.
There's the exhaust going in there. They're going to get a lot of damage down on towards him. He's forced to the flash. When flash follows through, the Cocoon follows in there. It's going to be Froggen picking up first blood.
Very well played by Froggen and Shook. Even with the tower hit in place, Shook landed the Cocoon at near max range. There was very little xPeke could have done. I think he flashed maybe a touch too early. Had that flash been saved for the Cocoon to get away, maybe that could have saved his life. Nevertheless, first blood secured by Froggen on Karthus. He's going to shove this wave into tower, back, and probably start getting himself a couple of those very important items. You know Karthus is going to have a lot of damage to deal later on, but because there are so many heals, once there are ultimates available on Fnatic's side, they actually have tools to deal with that Requiem.
Well, they actually, I mean, the Wish will counter the Requiem. We'll see what the ability power will stick to. We'll see how sOAZ builds it as well. But it will be a fairly reasonable counter. And if they're all grouped together alongside that Monsoon, there's a whole lot to counter.
It increases the margin of error. A rank 1 Wish heals 150 based hit points, and a rank 1 Requiem deals 250 damage. Yeah. So you factor in magic resist to reduce some damage, and you factor in the heal, you're going to have that small margin of error. But, you know, Rekkles, he doesn't have barrier this game, and the reason I highlight that, Rekkles has given up 2 or 3 deaths a split because of Bravado not making him use his spell. Hey, a Requiem's coming down. It was actually against Froggen's Karthus, and he didn't pop his barrier. He died to that Requiem. He can't afford to make those same mistakes here today, especially on Froggen that's already got a kill.
Well, speaking of Rekkles, he's got that CS advantage early on. They haven't been against each other. Shook catching out YellOwStaR there as he tries to keep that pink ward safe. They're actually closing in towards him. Peke goes aggressive. Shook taking a lot of damage. Cyanide gets in. He's going to get the claws down, and it's Peke with a kill.
Yeah, very well played. Shook just getting slowed from so many sources. Slow from Zephyr, the slow from the Void Missiles, and of course the slow from Kayle. Just keep Shook in place long enough to get the damage down. I think this is a little bit of a brave call. Remember, teleport is up for Wickd, so if Dragon were to start, he could join the fight. sOAZ does have Wish available, but he can't actually join to cast any additional abilities.
I think Fnatic were simply teasing the Dragon to see what sort of vision Alliance had of that pit area. It seems the immediate reaction really simply calculated and backed away from that one. No doubt about that one. So, bot lane, they're finally up against each other. Let's see what they can do. It is a Karma and a Jinx, so the poke you would feel is going to be with the Karma, but Rekkles has done a very good job at keeping that CS going. You can see Tabzz managed to rein it back with that last wave.
Yeah, there's also a level advantage on Fnatic's side. Thanks to the additional time spent alone in lane, they have got that slight advantage in some trading, but the great range of both Jinx and Karma is making YellOwStar's life a bit difficult. This is a risky lane for Rekkles and YellOwStar, because if they don't have vision control in the jungle, they are at threat of being invaded. The moment Shook decides to come in from behind, comboed with a Requiem, they could be at risk of going down. And this was a good amount of damage, completely uncontested, as Froggen went to grab his own blue.
Yeah, remember, if you have just joined us, it is only 8.5 minutes in, but those bottom lanes are all gone. Those turrets are down. Cyanide, he's evolved his ultimate there, so he's going to keep himself that damage reduction. Kind of the standard Kha'Zix these days. We are going to see the blue buff going across the Peke. That's going to be much needed. We'll see whether Froggen gets his blue buff, because remember, yesterday, up against the Copenhagen Walls, he has got it on him now. It was taken away from him so often, and actually, if you heard Fnatic, of course, at the start of the show, they were talking about how they need to shut down Froggen, take that blue buff away from him. We'll see what exactly they do in their gameplay to try and capitalize on that.
Yeah, it's gonna be quite difficult, because not only did we see the Wolves grabbing a lot of blue buffs away from Froggen yesterday, when blue was available, if I remember correctly, it was Shook that even grabbed it. I remember we were highlighting the fact. Now Shook has snuck himself into this bottom bush at the moment, and you're just gonna be looking for that cocoon to land. It doesn't look like YellOwStaR and Rekkles are pushing too far forward yet.
Well, they've got Cyanide joining them. There we go. Quick pop towards Shook. I'm not too sure if that gave his position away. I don't think it did. You would have seen Rekkles and YellOwStaR backing away much faster. But Cyanide is close by. We do see the ultimates are up from both these. There's the ward. Gets away from the cocoon. The speed burst comes out. Shook going deep on this one. The rest of his team not on the same page there. And now you see the Cullen doing a lot of damage onto Shook there. Cyanide's going to now join them, and they will chase Alliance back on towards the tower.
A little bit of miscommunication there. Shook was going in, and neither Tabzz nor Nyph followed. So, over-aggressive. Shook has already given up the first kill of the game on his side of the map. And this is the first time we're seeing this now Soraka versus Ryze matchup. Already, you're going to have sOAZ, again, pushing this wave. We're expecting him to do this over and over. Star Call is such a great pushing technique. And thanks to the silence and the heal, any poke that Ryze puts down is going to get regenerated very, very quickly. So I think sOAZ is in a superior position when dealing with a one-on-one. It may end up being a farm fest, because Wickd has to stick around for an extended period of time before he's going to get killed by all of those Star Calls from sOAZ.
Alliance just getting an early warning system, wondering if that Dragon was going to get started off. Those bananas continue to go from sOAZ, continuing to toss them out to Wickd. Well, of course, he's been well aware of that. And the old flash banana that came out from Crepo many moons ago up against Moscow 5. sOAZ takes a tower hit there. Not sure he wanted that one, but you can see the damage, and he turns around. Even taking tower hits, just heals himself up and keeps putting punishment onto that tower.
Yeah, you've got to remember that with the Astral Blessing, the W of Soraka, it's going to give you that bonus armor as well. So he can afford to heal himself after taking a turret hit before the turret lands, and it reduces the effectiveness or the amount of damage he's going to take. I think sOAZ is going to be playing a split push game. If he can stick pulling up members of Alliance towards him, it'll open up towers and objectives elsewhere on the map to allow Fnatic to get to them. And look at that, that's 2 or 3 Star Calls, and the wave is instantly deleted.
Yeah, taking it straight down. Wickd making sure he got that Negatron cloak very early on. Actually changed his build, of course. He would have been trying to stack towards that Rod of Ages as soon as possible. Froggen doing exactly the same. This is exactly what we saw from Alliance. It worked well, and we know what to expect from Alliance. They're going to sit back, absorb the pressure up to the 30-minute mark. That's when they're going to start hitting that power spike. Peke not being allowed back. We'll see what he does with this Kayle.
Now, it's quite interesting to see all of the supports in this game when you consider Soraka, Kayle, Janna. And they're protecting Lucian, who is a great AD carry, good laning phase, good mid game. But I feel that the later we go into this match, the more I like the Jinx. Now, Shook, he goes for the ward, he's getting caught again.
It's the exact same spot. He got caught out last time. They haven't really got the backup damage this time because xPeke is not there to join them. Nyph comes up. He's got that inner flame. He's actually going to try and draw them away and instead has to use his flash. Well played there. Shook not out the danger yet. He's going to get taken down. Where's he going to repel to? He's got nowhere to go. He's just going to drop straight down. And Rekkles gets himself a free kill.
So again, Shook just a little bit out of position, playing very greedy, going for that ward. 3 members of Fnatic collapsed on him, and it almost feels like Fnatic anticipated that movement. They were instantly jumping on him. Look at the amount of vision. Oh, that even goes wide. Look at the amount of vision that Fnatic have around this Dragon Pit. It is great control, which is allowing them to go very aggressive, grab themselves another kill, and the first Dragon of the game.
Easy objective control for Fnatic. That puts them in the gold lead for the first time. Remember, those towers pushed early on by Alliance gave them that advantage, but you can see Fnatic starting to turn this game now. sOAZ has joined the team and they're just continuing to drive the pressure on towards that turret.
We'll see how Alliance decides to respond, because as we were talking about, the fact that Fnatic are going to have all of these options to protect either the Kha'Zix or the Lucian in these mid to late game team fights. Oh, that's a Requiem. I'm not even sure if that was just to annoy people or a misclick.
That's...
Well, Requiem's on cooldown. Well done, Froggen. We'll need to follow up with him. Nobody was low enough. It could literally have been just to annoy xPeke. Maybe there was a call somebody's lone. xPeke stuck around a little bit.
Well, he's definitely low now. He's going to get forced away. There was the flash being driven out. Alliance actually using it to try and push him away from the turret. That's got to be the only course of action I can consider, because that was a very random ultimate coming out from Froggen. In a moment, they are going to keep them back here, and they're actually worried about this one. xPeke being very brave. Remember, he has that intervention. Doesn't need mana to use it anymore on Kayle.
So noticing that Shook and Wickd were very close by in that mid lane, the only theory is that Froggen was trying to delay xPeke. If xPeke had backed off and continued to recall, it would have allowed them a couple extra seconds to get on the tower. But thanks to Janna and Kayle being in range of that turret, getting that Eye of the Storm and blocking some of those auto attacks Alliance were putting down, they actually hold on to the mid turret. And all of a sudden, it's Fnatic that are getting some additional damage on this mid turret. Look at the power of that Eye of the Storm. That's the first real damage that this duo has taken from 3 tower hits.
sOAZ and Wickd continue their solo journey, and at the moment it is sOAZ out farming Wickd. Wickd probably wasn't quite expecting this lane matchup, I don't think, unless they've had some sort of insider knowledge on what Fnatic had been doing. That turret very low now in that mid lane, and that would be the second one of the game. Blue Ball steal coming on here. Cyanide once again taking this away from Froggen. It's what they said they were going to focus on. It's working so far. Yeah,
and they're doing it very, very well. Because of the pressure on that mid lane, multiple members of Alliance were roaming to defend. This has opened Wickd up to a gank. He's recalling Cyanide and Rekkles. They need to go in quickly if they want to interrupt it.
Inner Flame's going to come out. They try and catch them out and towards that white. It causes Wickd actually didn't back away. He's sticking around, and the rest of his team are going to rotate. They want to hold this turret as long as possible.
Yeah, at this point in time, Alliance need to hold on to the towers. They've got a composition that needs to scale up with time, and they don't want to give up more objectives. If Fnatic get control of Alliance's jungle, which they've actually done a pretty good job of so far, they can deny more objectives.
Look at this top lane. xPeke is making his way up river. It is going to be Tabzz continuing to push through, but he's all on his own now, and xPeke is going to be coming around the back of him. We're going to see YellOwStaR closing the gap here. I'm not too sure how this one's going to go. Well, I'm pretty sure it's going to be xPeke taking him down. There's the exhaust being used. Remember, the Requiem is down. He hasn't got it available. Intervention used very early on. Tries to get the slow. Hasn't got enough, though, with the shield coming from YellOwStaR. It was only going one way, and the wish, of course, from sOAZ.
That's not... Okay, so yes, Fnatic ended up getting the kill, but they had to invest a lot into that. Exhaust, wish, intervention. You even had YellOwStaR coming into rage to flash and get that Eye of the Storm onto xPeke. But what it does tell you is that if Alliance can keep Tabzz alive over the course of these fights and prevent Fnatic steamrolling them, there is a lot of damage on Tabzz. He can get through those fairly squishy targets. So we'll need to see how Alliance coordinate these team fights, because I feel one misplay or one mistimed ultimate from Fnatic could result in their doom.
See how it develops at the moment. It is Alliance with the tower lead and slight adventure and advantage in the gold lead, which ordinarily, under a normal team lineup, I would say is a big advantage to Alliance, but I have just no idea what's going to come out of this Fnatic lineup. We don't know how it's going to perform in the late game at the moment. It's been a long time. I cast my mind back to the days of Dignitas when they started to use Soraka heavily in that mid lane. They used Janna, I think was top lane possibly back then. I believe it was, I'm not too sure which one Voidboy was playing. I know there was a 3-pronged heal strategy they tried out, and we haven't seen it for a very long time. And It's definitely not something we've seen from Korea either.
No, it's not. The one thing that is quite nice about the comp that Fnatic has put together is they do scale to a very good level. They're going to jump on Wickd. There is some support for Fnatic. Can they get it?
Cyanide using that stealth ability to get the unseen threat and doing some good damage onto Wickd here. He's going to get another claw down. sOAZ finally comes in, starts shredding him down. He's not going to get the escape. The Void Spikes land, that slows him down. Howling Gale's not going to quite land in there. One more hit from sOAZ should be enough. There he goes down to the Star Core.
Took a very long time, but again, that is an example of things to come. That is a 3-man investment and a bunch of spells thrown out just to get Wickd. It will result in another tower though, so well played by Fnatic. They're finally going to even up their tower score, and once again get some deep vision in the red side of the jungle. Alliance, they've not given up though, they are still pushing this bottom lane.
They're also proving just how long they can tank up that turret. The shields, the heals, everything available to them. They managed to tank that turret down. So it's 3-3 in turrets now, all square. Top 2 turrets down, bottom 2 turrets down, and the mid turret. That's the next focus. Fnatic just took that one down. That's the one Alliance want next.
For Fnatic, because we were talking about how their champions can scale, Soraka's going to do very well as the game goes on, and Mikhail's Crucible's been picked up by YellOwStaR, so if they didn't have enough heals, there is another heal added into the mix as well. I also like the power of an extremely late game Kayle. I think the moment you put Kayle in the face of basically anybody, I would even argue a Rise in a super late game situation, Peke is going to have the ability to win those fights if they're split pushing together because he's got the intervention and he's going to have Wish. You can never discount that tool thrown in there. So we need to see how these global ultimates work. Dragon is respawning, Fnatic have got perfect positioning, Alliance are close by if they want to challenge, but they may get you too late.
Yeah, I think they're just going to push straight for that middle turret. They are finally starting to rotate down, thinking, you know what, there might be a dragon on here, but Fnatic are going to take it already, and now they're going to turn. That's going to be the turret, but they're going to have Fnatic potentially up behind them. We see it's going to be Nyph running interference duties, keeping them away with that inner flame. They're going to try and have to rotate around. They're going to collapse towards it. This inner turret is going to go down. It's 2 towers picked up by Alliance. sOAZ now caught out of position. Intervention goes down on towards him. The rest of Fnatic pile in. The heals coming raining through, but there's a lot of damage coming out from Alliance now. Cyanide gets locked up. That Rune Prison doing work, and Froggen just ripping them down there, and we saw the difference right there. Alliance do have the damage to break through the shields and heals of Fnatic.
They're getting so much damage on Alliance. Alliance needs to back away. That was a perfect example of Fnatic not being able to be out of position. sOAZ got collapsed on. He had a fail flash into the wall. He didn't manage to clear the distance to get in range of his teammates. And even with the Wish, the Howling Gales, as well as the intervention, he still died in the middle of the team fight. He's only got an Athenes and Holy Grail to his name. So there's no additional survivability. He's working towards potentially a death cap. And I think that was quite smart play by Alliance. They gave up 1 dragon, but they got a kill and 2 towers out of it.
The blue buff is being delayed there. Cyanide tried to sneak in at the end of that one and steal it away instead. The fact that Tabzz was there, Tabzz untouched in that fight, the only member that was untouched, by the way, but if he can stay that way, it's going to be a problem for Fnatic because he's going to be a heavy damage dealer on that Jinx as he rolls into late game. You can see he's already got similar items to his AD counterpart Rekkles, who himself is the top voted All-Star member, so if Fnatic are not going to make it to All-Stars if they don't win this spring split, almost certainly we're going to see Peke and Rekkles at that event nonetheless.
Yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. There's still a best of 3 and a best of 5 to determine
long way to go.
Those positions. I want you to look at the items really quickly, and you'll notice that Cyanide has got a green ward and a pink ward in his inventory. As far as junglers go, Cyanide actually purchases more green wards than anyone else in the European LCS. He's purchased 248 this split. To put things into perspective, Shook has only purchased 122. So not only does Cyanide play a style of jungle where he gives up a lot of his Wraith camps to Froggen, to xPeke rather, he also invests a lot of the gold that he does earn, a lot of the gold he earns, into vision and vision control for his team. So I do feel he's one of the most selfless junglers in the league.
We'll see how it works out for him. Cyanide, probably one of the most experienced junglers, I think it's fair to say, in Europe right now. He's ahead of Diamond, who himself is not going to be into these semi-finals, sadly, as Gambit did get themselves knocked out. Shook, of course, this is going to be the first semi-finals for him, and really the first taste of big game experience. He's obviously been around in Alliance for a long time, but previous to that, he was in the Copenhagen Wars, never really been in the big moments. If they were to get to Paris, for example, for the All-Stars, that would be a huge event for all of these players, of course, the experience that Wickd, Froggen have. Nyph's been around for years. He was in the Season 1 World Finals, but Shook has never quite been there, and this is really his time to shine. He's really stepped up a lot lately, and that's, of course, what gave Alliance that third place finish. A lot of it is down to Shook and Nyph.
Yeah, I agree with that, and this particular game hasn't been a super strong start for Shook. 0-2-2 right now. Both of the times he's died, he has been somewhat out of position and he hasn't had the support of his teammates. And this is a very high-pressure game right now. Fnatic, they've had some good moves around the map, but they've got this non-traditional composition. So the moment Alliance were grouped up as 5, you instantly feel like, well, Fnatic are in a little bit of trouble because there's no margin of error. They cannot be out of position, they cannot mistime their abilities, or they run the risk of giving up towers and team fights. Now, Alliance grouped up as 3 members in this top half. They're going to get a lot of damage, and Tabzz is melting this turret.
Out of position completely. Meanwhile, the bot lane, we do see xPeke. He's chasing on towards Wickd. We do see the wall of pain going down. Wickd's going to try and run for his life while the rest of the team fight and duke it out in that top lane. There's nothing really to prevent the teleport here, though. So if he wants to use it, he needs to get out of there. He's going to have to do it pretty soon. Has got that flash available. Does skip over the wall. Peke's not got his flash to follow. Meanwhile, back in the top lane, Cyanide chasing on towards Alliance. They are forced to back away from this one. And in a 4v4, it seems that Fnatic have the power to press them away.
So that is the point that we were talking about earlier. The moment Kayle is sent to deal with Ryze in the split push, you do feel that Kayle has the tools to deal with that champion. Wickd never once wanted that fight. The moment Peke ran towards him, Wickd was on his back foot. He was running away. He's got boots of swiftness as well. Got that additional mobility when he throws down his ultimate as well. So really, really didn't want to engage. Regardless, Fnatic defend the top inner turret. Now they're looking for a fight. Have they caught Nyph?
They have caught him out. The Cologne being used out there. It's going to land a lot of damage. Nyph taken very low from this one. Alliance, though, they're not interested in a fight. They're not interested in pouncing for it. Fnatic trying to force it, but they're just buying time. Wickd pushing down that bottom lane again. It has teleport, remember. There's no towers to stop him getting towards that inhibitor.
Now that's the advantage that Wickd has on his side of the table. Because he has teleport, he can join those fights as they break out. Fnatic, once again, they are playing a very high-risk comp, because if they are out of position, you've seen it. The top inner turret took all that damage. They lost 2 middle turrets because they didn't react quickly enough to Alliance's positioning. What we've seen from Fnatic, their aggressive plays have stalled. I'm going to go out and say it flat out. They were invading to steal blue buffs, they were controlling dragons, and now they haven't been able to push past Alliance's jungle line in a while. So in order to regain control, they need to get a convincing team fight to push down that inner mid or inner bottom turret, as well as more vision. There's no Fnatic wards on Alliance's jungle, and you compare that to the first 15 minutes of the game, it's chalk and cheese.
Well, they're going to try and lock on towards YellOwStaR, gets caught out, Wall of Pain goes down. Lei Weiss has to use his monsoon to try and keep him away, simply keep himself alive there. That's a big ulti that could be down in the next team fight. Dragon is just spawning.
Yeah, we'll see how it affects Fnatic in these team fights. I still feel in a big 5v5 situation, they need to make sure they get somebody on the front line tanking up the damage and focus all of their shields and interventions on that champion. All 5 members are facing off against each other. Look for a cocoon or a route to land to be the start for Alliance. They didn't want to go in there.
Cyanide is known for stealing away these buffs, and he is lingering, waiting in the wings. He has evolved those wings, has flash available, so he could easily get in and get out with that smite. However, he's up against Shook on Elise. He's going to be very hard to out-duel here. Cocoon does not quite land. Cyanide, poised, ready, jumps in, doesn't get it, has to try and get out of there. He's going to get locked up. Intervention being used. The rest of the team close the gap on towards them. Shook in the backside. He's stuck in the pit. Wickd now stuck in the pit. Peke closes in towards him. Shook goes down. Peke is getting taken low, very low. Has to flash out of it. Froggen trying to keep the rest of the team out. They may try and chase on towards this one. Everybody disengages. Shook the only one to go down, but they got the dragon.
Yes, they got the dragon, so net gain is still sitting with Alliance. But what we did see from Fnatic is how great the coordination was there on their heals and from the Wish. There was a massive spike of HP on Cyanide's bar before the Wish came down, so they timed those abilities well. While that's all going on, Fnatic have now grouped up, but they're going to get this inner turret.
They're going to take that turret down, just shield up, and well, Rekkles is quite confident in his ability with the rest of his team to just keep pushing there. There's a giant wave along that top lane now. Wickid's going to have to deal with that one. He's actually low on health, so let's take a look at this dragon fight.
So the key that you want to be looking at is as Cyanide jumps in, look at how much focus they put onto him. That's 5 members of Alliance trying to burst him down. The moment intervention comes up, they immediately peel away. Once again, keep your eyes on Cyanide's HP bar. That's the heal from Kayle. Now you're going to see the Wish come in just a few seconds later. So all of the damage that Alliance has put down is instantly reset. But because Fnatic have stuck in there long enough to get some good damage on Wickd and Nyph, Alliance back away. Had sOAZ been in the middle of them, getting star calls on all of the members, that could have been so different. Oh, it's not over yet. They caught Cyanide.
Cocoon lands, and that's intervention used very quickly on towards Cyanide. That's going to be an ulti down. They're going to move in towards the next one. They're going to try and sweep these wards out. It's Alliance trying to fight for vision control.
So with xPeke's build right now, it's a 45-second cooldown on that intervention. That is a very short timer. He's not even level 16 yet. That will still get marginally lower. The one thing I do want to highlight that I just caught when we watched that replay is the moment Fnatic decided to challenge for that dragon, they had top, middle, and bottom lane minion waves pushing in their favor. So if they had kept Alliance together and delayed and dragging that fight up, their minions were playing and doing some work for them. So that was actually quite smart timing on their part. But we'll need to see how they take advantage of it, because now Tabzz and Wickd has pushed out both side lanes back towards Fnatic.
And despite the drastically different builds here, YellOwStaR is going to... No, you're not going to... I don't know whether he was expecting YellOwStaR to step forward or what, but he didn't aggressively Baron there. You can't throw a cocoon at Baron. You're not going to land a gigantic cocoon over his head. It's not going to work out for you, Shook. What I was about to say is the fact that all the lanes are actually very even. You look at the two top laners, very close in CS. The mid lane is very close. The AD carries, all very, very close. Even the junglers and supports are tight. The gold is overall, it's only 1,000 gold difference moving into the 30-minute mark, despite vastly different team builds.
Yeah, and it's very interesting because for every move that Fnatic has initiated, Alliance have responded with one of their own. I want to highlight the Alacrity boots that Wickd has picked up. At default, with his boots of swiftness, he's got a movement speed of 424. When he throws down his ultimate, it gives him a flat 80 move speed. So he's going to be bulleting to the back line. And depending on if he wants to focus sOAZ or xPeke or Rekkles, there's going to be very little that can stop him. Yes, there's slows in there, but you've got a slow from Shook, you've got a slow from Kayle, slow from Janna. It's only the knockup that is not going to be reduced in effectiveness by those swiftness boots.
You should point out that both those Seraph's Embraces are now stacked up and ready. Nyph going to get caught out here, and maybe they won this fight. I'm not too sure. Nyph's taking a lot of damage. Cyanide taking all that punishment once again, using that ultimate to just defend in towards it. Wickd being that tanky front line, keeping them at bay.
Look at the heal on Cyanide. They didn't even need ultimates to save him. That was just the burst heal. Now Fnatic, they're feeling confident. They've caught Froggen.
Seraph's Embrace being used already by Froggen. The rest of the team tanking it down. Wickd in trouble as well. And Cyanide, well, just look at all of Fnatic. Nobody low. Rekkles is the only man, but he's just simply being kept away. They can just bully them out and push for the inhib middle.
Nobody's ever going to get low on Fnatic in extended fights because the heals. They've caught sOAZ.
Intervention being used. Cyanide jumps in on towards Nyph. They can't take him down. There's the Wish going down. There's the Monsoon. Suddenly everybody is topped off on health for Fnatic. Alliance still trying to cut the damage down on towards YellOwStaR, taken low. Tabzz does manage to get the execute on towards him. Gets excited, but Shook now taken low. He's going to have to repel. He's got no wraith to jump to. Have to jump back into the team. Cyanide goes in, but Froggen gets in amongst them. He goes down. They're all in the Defile right now. Froggen's going to put the Requiem down. The heal comes out once again. Rekkles taken so low, but he's running into the base. Alliance are going to try and trap around him. Wickid's coming down the mid lane at the moment. They're trying to catch on towards him. Tabzz gets the tome. Gets on towards Rekkles. Can they catch up? Nyph comes in. Inner Flame goes down, but still, they don't have the damage. It's a 2-for-2. A very tight exchange between two teams that really don't want to give an edge.
But Fnatic are going to get the tower. You've seen how long that fight was, and even with Alliance backing away and dealing with Fnatic in that very tight chokehold in the jungle, Fnatic come out even in the fight. They get the turret, which makes it gives them an advantage. The one thing that you have to note is all of the damage that's sitting on Alliance's side. They did manage to get through all of those heals, all of that sustain, and they still got multiple members of Fnatic down. That is because of the fact that Fnatic's composition is very, very risky in those team fights. Because they've got non-traditional damage dealers, it takes them a very, very long time to kill members of Alliance, and Alliance have got pretty good range. You've seen how effective that zap was, and the rockets from Jinx in the back line, plus all the lay wastes from Froggen's Karthus. So very, very interesting and exciting team comps. And it's going to come down, like Kevin said, I believe in the opening of the show, whichever team makes the bigger mistake is going to lose this game for the team.
And you could argue with the enclosed tight space, it was ideal for Froggen on Karthus there. Ooh, blue buff almost stolen away there. Froggen does manage to pick it up, and the rest of Alliance are going to move in. They've singled out YellOwStaR all on his own. He's going to get slowed down, but now Alliance realizing they're in a complete split push position. They're jumping on Nyph. Nyph gets taken down. Shook's in trouble now. He's taken low. Cyanide jumps on towards him. Wickid's going to be his focus. Rekkles has got Shook. He's going down, no doubt about that. He's got nowhere to repel to. He's just going to drop straight down into the bullets of Rekkles, and now that's 2 members down. Chasing on towards Wickid. Cyanide's going to have his lead back up in a moment. Instead, flashes for it. The claws come out from the unseen threat, and Cyanide gets himself another. It's a 3-0. Fnatic are going to take this in him.
They are going to. Intervention is available, as is Monsoon. Tabzz is doing the best he can to interrupt it. They've got the tower, they've got the inhibitor. Now Froggen and Tabzz need to be very careful not to engage and get caught out.
Yeah, they're just actually out of position, keeping off the side. They want them to engage just off the side. They're trying to see if they can get a pick off at the end there as Fnatic disengage, but that was a very straightforward, sloppy engage by Alliance. They had to be grouped together. Those pincer moves so rarely work.
I completely agree with you. And if you're going for a pincer, it needs to be very committed for everybody to go in. Because of all of the heals and the speed ups that Fnatic had, they found the picks that they needed, which has opened up the inhibitor. Now they've started off the Baron. Look down the ultimates. Wish is not available. Intervention and Monsoon are. Froggen, he's been exhausted. He's going in.
Dangerous play. Froggen's going to be kept away by that Monsoon, and that's going to be the Baron for Fnatic. No problem there. A lot of damage coming out from Fnatic overall, and look at them. Everybody, full health, comes out that pit.
Every single champion on Fnatic's side has tools that allows them to deal with Alliance when used appropriately. Because Alliance tried that pincer move, and they didn't commit as a full unit with everybody from both sides at the same time, it meant that Nyph got singled out. He got left on by Cyanide. He got, Cyanide had the movement speed increase from Kayle. He has a built-in slow of his own, and he just stuck to Karma. Once Karma went down, he got a reset, which allowed him to chase down more members of Alliance. So very well played by Fnatic. This is the first solid lead that you can feel a team has. It's 6,000 gold. They've got an inhibitor, a Baron buff, and I'm just expecting him to siege the top or the bottom lane now.
Yeah, and you've got to add on top of that the value that Baron buff gives each member. And it was a long time ago calculated at 8,000. It's actually more than that these days because of the regen that it gives you, that massive stat bonus. I think it's a 3% regen for the Baron buff, which in terms of items is enormous because you can't buy regen items that cheaply, that's for sure. So, Alliance, despite the fact they are going to get that late game power spike, clearly are struggling to get their damage down against this massive shield heal team.
I would argue they're getting the damage down. They're just not getting it a second time once all the shield and heals have been used. I want to highlight something that I've only just noticed as well. YellOwStaR has still not picked up boots. We are 34 minutes into the game, and yes, on Janna, your passive plus your Zephyr is going to give you a movement speed increase. But that is quite interesting that he's still not picked up any of those boots. Whereas on the other side, you see Nyph has grabbed himself those boots, Ionian boots of Lucidity for cooldown reduction.
He doesn't need boots, he just spends more gold on a Brilliance pot instead. it's fine.
Cooldown reduction. I mean, the more Howling Gales, the more Eyes of the Storm, the more Monsoons you can put down, that's exactly what you want. It's exactly what you're looking for. I think Fnatic are in a very good position now. It's taken them 30 minutes to get this lead, but now that they have it, and as we've been talking about, they've got this comp that can deal with the lines, they've got now a margin of error. They have this safety zone with the Baron and the gold, the item lead. I mean, this is a DFG Kayle. So this is not a Lichbane Kayle yet. I'm expecting that as a 6th item. But Deathfire Grasp plus the Righteous Fury, that's going to be a dead Tabzz the moment he steps forward. We may be seeing it very, very shortly. Alliance are trying to pull a Fnatic push, and it's been spotted!
Cyanide leaps straight in towards it. Froggen tries to get in amongst them with that Defile. He goes down. Everybody now needs to evacuate the area. There's going to Wish. There's the Requiem following it through. There's no damage coming out, though. They haven't even got enough damage to deal with Cyanide, who's just bouncing on towards them. Monsoon blows Tabzz straight into Fnatic, into the jaws, and they pounce on through. That's going to be a Shook dumping down. He's not cared. He's going to flash the hell out of there. The inhibitor will go down. Fnatic followed through with the Super Minions onto the Nexus turrets. It's been a very solid performance from Fnatic in Game 1 as they take victory in this best of 3.
This was a phenomenal performance from Fnatic. They had a composition that had no room for error. And they just executed so well. They went even in lane, they went even in the mid game. They rotated effectively. And considering all of this support type champions that were locked in, the moment somebody engaged, Fnatic always were on point. They always used their abilities correctly, and barring one mid lane team fight, that was just all about Fnatic.
Yeah, and that last play, I mean, it's a last-ditch effort play. that if it had worked, would have been fantastic. But bearing in mind, that's a Fnatic with the Baron. They've already proved with all those heals, with all the shields, they could prevent it. And the fact that it was Cyanide that jumped in on a Kha'Zix with the 50% damage reduction, shields piling on top, heals piling on top, they couldn't do a thing against him.
What I love about that, right, if we step back and look at the whole game, from picks and bans, where we noticed all the supports coming in, we knew Ryze and Karthus was going to be a thing we anticipated. I thought Ryze was going to be banned out. Fnatic knew they were aware of it. From the level 1 buff, where Cyanide steals blue, completely aware of where Alliance were going to be, all the way through to the pushes, the rotations, the dragon fights, and that final death push, Fnatic are in Alliance's head. Fnatic predicted what Alliance were going to do at basically every stage of the game, and it gave them all of the information they needed to counter it, and they did. So kudos to them for that.
Yeah, and that's a big problem for Alliance fans out there, because Alliance have just run the tactic that, well, near as damn it the same tactic as yesterday that worked so well for them against the Copenhagen Wolves, but it's just been shut down so hard by Fnatic. They seem to have an answer to it. What are Alliance going to do next?
This is such a difficult pick ban phase. I mean, after you've just seen what Fnatic have pulled out, nobody could have predicted this. Nobody could have predicted Soraka top Janna support in a million years, unless you've scrimmed Fnatic. But so knowing that it was surprising, it now gives Fnatic the opportunity to decide, do they want to bait this? Do they want to lock in a Kayle again and maybe surprise everybody? Or do they want to lock in, that Soraka again, put a support this time on mid lane? I also want to say, this is the first double AP that Fnatic have pulled off all split long that has blown my mind. I was very outspoken about disliking how Fnatic was trying to make double AP work, and it has been very hit or miss over the last